Hello and welcome to step 3 in our journey toward an enlightened mind and transcending stress. I introduced Penny Lane to you a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to tell you a little story a little later about her. So, Penny, you see? Okay. Now, we're going to be talking about you a little bit later. Okay, I'm going to let her out right now. I'll be back. So, just to review, the first step we talked about was peeling back the layer that we tend to identify with as ourself, the body. I am not my body, and going through the reasons. I'm not my body, breathing in. Why? Because my body's changing and I'm unchanging. I am that ever-present element of experience which doesn't change, which is the experiencer of the body. Breathing in again, I am not my body. Why? Because I am the seer of my body and my body is the seen. Breathing in again, I am not my body. Why? Exhale, because my body is the known and I am the knower. Breathing in, I'm not my body. Why? Because my body is experienced and I'm the experiencer. Breathing in again, I'm not my body. Why? Because my body is a composite of many things and I am one something, that in which the body's appearing and disappearing. Breathing in, I am not the body. Why? Because the body is a covering, is kind of a layer, and I feel that I'm inside here somewhere. Okay. Now, the second one was, I am not my mind. Why? Because my mind is a series of thoughts. It's something in which it's many, and I am unchanging and one. I am not the mind. Why? Because the mind is seen and I am the seer. Breathing in, I am not the mind. Why? Because, exhale, the mind is experienced and I'm the experiencer. Breathing in, I am not the mind. Why? Because the mind is known and I am the knower. The thought, it's sunny today, does not know me, I know it. So just a quick review. You can see those again. And in my book, it's laid out with more examples and so forth. So breathing in, I'm not my mind. Why? Because my mind is experiencing all these thoughts, and I'm the experiencer. I am, you and I are the ever-present element of every experience. So that if we were our thoughts, if we were our mind, and how do we experience our mind? But by the act of thinking and imagining an activity, passing thoughts, passing images. An image would disappear and then I would disappear. You and I would disappear, but we don't disappear. We stay as other thoughts come and go. So it's as if, like the sky, the clouds pass through, and then we are that in which, like the sky, we are experiencing those clouds, so to speak. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is if you take your hands and begin to feel the sensation of the aliveness in your hands. Just close your eyes and begin to feel those sensations of energy, aliveness in your hands. Now that's getting closer to who we are as consciousness, as the light of consciousness. However, tuning into that, so for example, you and I can say, I am not this life energy. Why? Because this life energy is changing and I am unchanging. I can see different levels of energy during the day. Sometimes I'm energized, sometimes I'm exhausted as after a workout. Okay, so again, breathing in. I am not my life energy. Why? Because as I exhale, breathing out, my life energy is seen and I'm the seer. I can see my chest moving when I breathe in and out, and so forth. And I can see whether I'm tired or energized. So I am not this life energy, breathing in, pausing, exhale. Why? Because this life energy is known, and I'm the knower. Breathing in, I am not this life energy. Why? Because this life energy is experienced, and I'm the experiencer. I'm the ever-present element of all the changes taking place in my level of energy. Now, in recent years, there has been a big exploration on the part of science and interest being taken in subtle energy. And this energy that we feel in our bodies, this subtle energy, in Chinese it's called qi, in Japanese it's called ki. And there's a society called ICEM, the International Society for the Study of Subtle Energy and Energy Medicine. So ISSSEM. So that subtle energy, that life force has been looked at, and in my experience with being attuned to Reiki, and again that means REI, it's an ancient healing art. REI in Japanese is the prefix for universal and key energy. And so for people's health, and at some point I'll tell you about some of the experiences, miraculous experiences I've been witness to, as well as being a kind of a facilitator or a channel for, a vehicle for, if you will, for people's healings from very incredible things such as pyogenic meningitis, testicular cancer, and so forth. Again, it's not me, but my being sort of, as in the Reiki tradition, an empty bamboo shoot through which that energy flows in the person and helps to restore by amping up their immune system, their energy, their life energy. Okay, so with that, if you begin to realize, and I mentioned this last time, that when we say I am not the mind, another element in the ancient tradition was they included mind and they included intellect, and they made a distinction. I collapsed the two together and I substitute a different sheath or covering or layer, which we'll talk about later as a step because of my background in psychology and doing therapy. But for the idea of the intellect is our level of intelligence. Now that intelligence level may change in the course of a lifetime, or not may, does. It may grow as our knowledge base grows and we go through different schooling and so forth and experiences, and then it may diminish some as our memory fades and so forth. So memory and intelligence all are part of what I would say as mind. So our memory changes and that which experiences memory doesn't change, So when you're doing the mind, you can include that. Now, the other thing about this life energy is it's got a vast intelligence in it. Now, as I'm sitting here and you are where you are, if we've eaten earlier, our body is digesting. That energy system in our body is digesting that food. That intelligence is taking care of that. We don't have to say, oh, gee, I got to remember to digest my food. At the same time, our heart is beating and we're not having to think about it. So an intelligence is orchestrating that. All these functions, our liver, our kidneys, our bladder, our whole circulatory system, is all being orchestrated and choreographed by that electromagnetic energy system, you could call it, or that life energy with intelligence. And prior to the life energy intelligence is the intelligence of consciousness. And somehow the mystery is how those two blend and work together, so that it's been said that one strand of DNA would fill, the information in it would fill volumes of medical texts. So that as you begin to realize you can relax to some degree and not feel like you have to control everything with your thought and your mind, because there's so much happening if you just get out of the way. Having yourself relieved of stress, because stress certainly can affect the body and our health. And as we're learning to transcend stress by accessing that deeper I, that which is beyond these various layers of the body, the mind, the life energy, and the other layers we'll go into. So if you look around it in the course of a day, you'll see how the trees, their leaves are growing in the spring, how they're flourishing, how the flowers are flourishing, and all the different varied colors of flowers, and how every particle of soil has an intelligence, every drop of rain, every particle of air, and every ray of sunlight all has that intelligence working within it, orchestrating this symphony and choreographing this dance of life energy in a dynamic display of all these life forms, these various these various how would I say these endless expressions in various variations, variety of variations of life forms. Think about it. You've got spotted lanternflies, which those of us in my area have been combating, and you have the praying mantis. You have butterflies. You have all ants to zebras, and this energy is orchestrating it all every day. So we don't have to always figure everything out. We just need to be able to step back, relax back, withdrawing our attention from the three areas of experience. And what are those? The mind, thoughts and images, the body, sensations, pleasurable or unpleasurable, and the world, which really is composed of sights, sounds, what we touch, taste, and smell. That is our experience. Everything is grounded in our experience. And when we look at our experience, we see that experience is primary and everything else is that which is appearing and disappearing within our experience. And so as we peel these layers back, we're getting back to that fundamental I, that you that is beyond the body, the mind, and even the life energy. So, a little quick story with Penny. Penny Lane. If you're a Beatles fan, you'll know what I mean by her name. When our precious little Bichon Pixie died, we weren't going to get a dog right away, but my wife couldn't hold off, and she got online and she started looking through a lot of rescues and tried to find a rescue, but the obstacles, the hoops you had to jump through to get one, we kept running into obstacles. So finally, I said, I'm going to turn this over to Pixie, and who'd passed away. Now, the night that Pixie passed away, about 3 a.m, I was awakened, and suddenly I saw a flash of light, which wasn't accounted for by the lamp, the light in the center of the ceiling fan. That wasn't on. There wasn't, the curtains were drawn. There was no lightning. And I felt the light of love from Pixie. And that happened 2 or 3 more times. And then in the morning when my wife awoke, I said, I felt Pixie come to us. I felt that light of consciousness that we saw in her eyes, that light of love, that conscious light of love that you can see in your precious pet or any animal, if you look closely, or any other human being. That same light in you is in them. And I said, I saw that. And with that moment, again, we both saw the flash of light. And that was a little bit before dawn, so it was lighter in the room, but it was still, the sun hadn't come up yet. And then, I'd say a few minutes later, the light in the ceiling fan began to strain, and as if it was trying to come on. It had a sound like, and it lit up a little bit, and then it went off. And I said, did you see that? To my wife? She said, yes. And she said, I was just thinking of how Pixie used to lie between us in the early morning, before as we were getting ready to as we woke up and were getting ready to get up, and she would snuggle in between us. So, this week I want you to make eye contact. Now I have to say something about my glasses again, so in terms of eye contact with you and I. Because of my glaucoma, my ophthalmologist really wants me to make sure I wear these glasses so that the blue light is blocked when I'm on the computer. So these have a blue blocker element in them. So that's that. So anyway, aside from my Roy Orbison look here, or Stevie Wonder, or Ray Charles, notables. Anyway, aside from that, when you make eye contact this week, with your loved ones and with your pets or people walking down the street, you'll notice that light that's in you is in their eyes, as that light of love was in Pixie's eyes, and how it's in Penny's now. And so that, as Eckhart says beautifully, Eckhart Tolle puts it, in the stillness of your own awareness, that light of consciousness, and that stillness of that presence, you can feel your own formless and timeless reality as the unmanifested, as the unseen light of consciousness, that unseen life that animates this physical form and keeps it alive. You can then be aware of and experience that same life and light of consciousness in every other human being and in every other creature. You look beyond the veil, if you will, this veil of forms and names and all these seemingly separate things. As you do that, this is the realization of the oneness of all of life. This is the realization that you can call love. Now, Eckhart has a way of saying, and I tossed some other words in, that's not exactly his quote, but that's similar. As he would say, there is, and what is God if you get away from, the various ways it's been interpreted that makes God into an object, the biggest object of all that we can turn to, rather than something it can't be in the Jewish tradition and in others, can't be named. It's beyond the name. It's beyond our mind knowing it. So that you could say, what is God but the eternal one life hidden in the myriad forms of life? And what is love but to feel the presence of that one life in all that is? And I would add to that, what is God, or this ultimate reality, this something, this vast intelligence, if you will, that's orchestrating, that's within and working through things, whatever some people may call it, nature, whatever you want to call that vast intelligence. The eternal one life and consciousness hidden in the myriad forms of life. And to know that, to feel that's that love, which is absence of strife and attention and so forth. So this week, practice, I am not my life energy and I'm not my body and my mind. And one other thing I want to mention, that Sadhguru, who you may have come across on the internet, and in the description below this video, you can find an exercise he calls, a daily exercise called the Isha Kriya. Isha means source, as in like the source of all creation. And Kriya means action, an inward action, as opposed to karma, which is an outer action. So the interaction of inner action that you turn inward, and you go through and you say, breathing in, I am not the body. Breathing out, I am not even the mind. Now, I advocate strongly that you do it with his guidance, hearing his voice. They talk about the voice support. And look at some other of his YouTubes that explain the yogic science behind this. It's fascinating. So what I would say in another addition to that, sometimes I'll think this as I try it myself. Breathing in, I am not the body, which is the vehicle I use to go through life. And breathing out, I'm not even the mind, which is a tool, an instrument I used to think and do problem solving. So breathing in, I am not the body, which is the vehicle I use. Breathing out, I am not even the mind, which is a tool I use for problem solving. Breathing in, I am not the body, this mass of sensations that I feel. Breathing out, I'm not even the mind, this series of thoughts like the rapids of a river, coming and going. Okay, but I really strongly urge you to try that exercise, because just doing the two, just disidentifying from the body and the mind is a really great uprooting of this ego identity, which is really identifying with this, and not with the vastness, which is the experience of consciousness that we are. Okay, have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week.